Depp has lost his libel case against the British newspaper The Sun, which called him a wife-beater in its coverage of his highly publicized divorce. A judge said he believed that Depp abused his ex-wife and she frequently feared for her life. Another restaurant chain is a casualty of the pandemic.
FIC Restaurants, parent company of Friendly's, is agreeing to be sold to investment firm Amici Partners.
Never, ever send a follow-up email asking, "Did you get my email?" Email 101. If it didn't bounce back undeliverable, it got where you sent it. And avoid transmedia pestering, like calling to ask, "Did you get my email?" or emailing to say, "I left you a voicemail." If your emails and voicemails aren't being acknowledged, your problem isn't technology, it's technique. Is your message concise and understandable? Have you boiled it down to seem as relevant as possible to the recipient? In other words, is it the opposite of spam or junk mail? All of this really matters if you're a job seeker. But even if you're not, with money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
According to locals waiting for a 66 bus in downtown Chicago last night, a young couple was making out in the passenger shelter like they were in Paris or something. Onlookers spoke to reporters about the pair, who carried on their passionate embrace for over 20 minutes, as if they were in some sort of goddamn candlelit bistro tucked away in Montmartre.
It's been almost a half an hour and they're still going at it. It's like they think they're sitting on a sun-dappled picnic blanket in the Tuileries Gardens. I mean, where the hell are we? The Champs-Élysées?
The pair's marathon makeout session, which took place in downtown Chicago and not, as frustrated onlookers emphasized, on a cobblestone street in the city of lights, featured intense gazing, deep tongue kissing, and other gestures of affection typically reserved for a couple strolling down the banks of the Seine River.
You know, for a second there, I honestly thought we had all been transported to Parc Monceau, drinking flutes of champagne on a wonderful summer afternoon while being serenaded by a Parisian accordion player. But no, we're at a bus stop in Chicago.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Good evening. 1, 2, 3 hosts on Free Talk Live tonight.
Free Talk Live?
Free Talk Live. I am the Count. No, I'm horrible at doing the count, actually, but...
One bad impression.
Yeah, well, I had to do something. I had to do something Halloweenish when it's not Halloween anymore.
I went out in my scary unmasked human costume yesterday. People were fleeing.
I did attend a thing, and I went as a Free Talk Live co-host. That was my costume. I dressed
convincing,
pretty much exactly the way I'm dressed right now, except for a different shirt. So. At any rate, our toll-free number is 855-450-3733. You can take control of the airwaves, call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. That's 855-450-FREE, like freedom. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass.
It's Ian.
Somebody. I don't remember who I am.
Noah Body?
Noah Body, that's it.
All right. And we are here to talk about all sorts of fun things. Last night, I was in the studio as a special guest. Thanks for having me in,
special?
Ian. That was fun to do a Sunday night with Richie Rich and the Peakless Mountaineer. Those guys were great. But we talked a little bit about a subject of the elderly who are dying in isolation because of the COVID lockdowns. And we talked a bit about how that occurs and what the effects of the lockdown are, and the elderly some of them just seem to be giving up, and they're actually listing like isolation and lack of thriving due to the COVID-19 on their as the cause of death in these hospitals.
Wow,
so I don't know.
That's amazing honesty.
Yeah, I don't know if future litigation is going to come from that or not. But
I doubt it. I mean, the thing is, you can't really be sued for doing what the government told you to, except under extremely rare circumstances. So
yeah.
When if they just, like, if nursing homes had put these protocols into place on their own without government instructions, yeah, they'd be getting sued left and right.
Right.
And it wouldn't be a uniform. You know, it'd be a few idiots doing, and people could like move out of those homes and move into better places where the idiots weren't doing that.
So it turns out that people are dying as a result of the government mandates and lockdowns, and it's affecting more than just the elderly. So I spent a little bit of time after the show last night and then again today looking at some other stuff. And the first thing that I want to bring up tonight is the Great Barrington Declaration. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. This is a whole bunch, thousands.
Oh, I read that. It was great.
Okay. Over 10,000 health scientists, 30,000 medical practitioners, and 600,000 members of the general public, all calling for an end to the lockdowns as the primary tool for mitigating COVID-19. So,
how did they come up with that name?
I don't know. I think...
Was it a guy named the Great Barrington who started it, like the Great Santini?
I'm always apprehensive about anything named great, like Great Britain.
Yeah,
like
Alexander the Great.
Yeah, why isn't it
He
just
killed a
Britain?
lot of people. I don't know what was so great about him.
But at any rate...
You either called him that or kill you too.
Well, oh, that makes sense. You know, although I will say, he managed, you know, people are afraid now of whether teenagers can tie their shoes. When he took over the Macedonian army and went out to conquer the world, do you know how old he was?
Nope.
15.
I was going to say, wasn't he like 16 or something? So 15. Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So at any rate, lockdowns have imposed immense social and economic harms over the last 8 months. Meanwhile, surprisingly little evidence exists to support the effectiveness of the lockdown approach. This from the AIER, the American Institute for Economic Research. The response from previous defenders of such policies, both in epidemiology and journalism, sought to vilify the signers of the declaration and deny that lockdowns are even on the table as a future policy option.
Hasn't it been censored by both Facebook and Twitter also?
I believe it has.
I think it was at first. And I don't know if it is now.
I'm not going to read them all, but they give several people have rebutted the Great Barrington Declaration, saying essentially they all say the same thing, that it's straw man arguments. The Great Barrington Declaration is saying that the measures that we first took within the first several weeks of lockdowns are what they're against. And, well, we're not doing that anymore. We're doing a lighter version of that.
No, they're not.
And that's their rebuttal. So
they're locking down once again in multiple countries and in the United States.
Yes, they are. That is correct. But prior to the announcement of these new lockdowns, this is what these people said. So,
as Nietzsche pointed out, everything the government says is a lie and everything it has is stolen.
Greg Gonsalves, an epidemiologist at Yale University, said,
Gonsalves.
Thank you. First, let's knock down the straw man up front. No one's supporting massive across-the-board lockdowns anywhere all the time.
I thought that's exactly what they were doing.
It is. Well, they're doing it again. William Hanage, an epidemiologist at Harvard University, reacted to the Great Barrington Declaration. This is a dangerous falsehood. This is a very narrow sample of top scientists and certainly not representative of the world. And lockdown is not the alternative. Matt Reynolds, a science reporter for Wired UK, wrote, the kind of lockdown that the Great Barrington Declaration seems to be railing against hasn't been in place in the UK since mid-June, which was true at the time when he said this.
Aren't they locked down until Christmas?
They've just re-locked down.
Right.
Yeah, as you said, yeah.
So all of the, and there's a bunch of responses here. I'm not going to read them all, but these are all otherwise, you know, we'll call them authorities, right? Whether they're, scientists
I'm not
or
going to call them authorities.
That kind of, these would be otherwise respected people in their fields giving these quotes about, well, that's not exactly what's happening. And so as of the writing of this article, which is dated November 2nd, 2020,
today.
So earlier this morning is when I picked this up. As of this writing, new national lockdowns have been imposed or announced for the following countries: Ireland, the Czech Republic, Wales, France, Germany, Belgium, Greece, Austria, and the United Kingdom.
Don't forget New York City. You've got now Massachusetts, which, according to the news today, also is doing a tighter lockdown, including tightening the mask mandate, reducing gathering limits, and ordering a curfew for businesses and gatherings.
Well, if somebody wants to escape from Massachusetts, I got room for a pretty girl around here somewhere.
Similar returns to lockdown are being actively discussed at the national level across Europe and regionally in the United States as well, including the ones that Ian has just mentioned. The much derided straw man of renewed lockdowns, it would appear, has already sprung to life. So obviously, the Great Barrington Declaration is not a straw man argument in any way, shape, or form, just based on what it had to say, the content of the Declaration itself, and then the rebuttals from these people. And that's all I'm going to say about them, because I feel pretty mean right now. I might say some mean things. But those people
who
said...
Those are rebuttals from buttheads. Definitely
they are. Particularly in the light of the re-lockdown. I don't know how many waves of lockdown it's been, but since it seems to be going on again. So that's part one of what I wanted to bring up tonight. Just the fact that a whole bunch of scientists and other medical professionals and a whole bunch of citizens got together and said, hey, look, there's little evidence that the lockdowns are the way to go. Can you please stop? And then a bunch of people rebutted that and said, oh, well, you're just talking about what we did, the harshness of the first few weeks, not, what we're doing currently.
Not the harshness.
And then they've gone
of,
ahead and resurrected the harshness.
Now? I don't even remember. Where did we missed the whole summer, didn't we?
It was March 13th is the day that I've marked on my calendar. The day I realized that, the entire world is changing today.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
855-450-3733. Do you think lockdowns are having an effect? This is Free Talk Live. Having a positive effect. We'd love to hear from you. That's 855-450-FREE. We've got more Free Talk Live coming up.
News from news.bitcoin.com. Bitcoin tops 13,000 and breaks its own record for consecutive days above 10,000. Satoshi Nakamoto, if alive, enters the top 200 world's wealthiest people. DC International Monetary Fund Manager warns of major financial reset imminent. PayPal begins selling and accepting Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes mainstream. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com. Freedom! Freedom is the call of the untamed Scotsman and all others that want to feel the wind under their kilts.
At Free Talk Live, we love the breezy, swinging feeling that only a kilt from Sport Kilt can give.
We teamed up with Sport Kilt to let you experience their form of freedom at a discount. Go to kilts.freetalklive.com and see a picture of Richie and me in our kilts.
And then head over to sportkilt.com. Get some stylish freedom for yourself and use code FTL for a 10% discount. Sportkilt.com.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
Only 2 libertarians on your ballot. Don't leave the rest blank. NHLA scores legislators and Democrats only vote pro-freedom 23% of the time. Republicans, 75%. That's 57% more wins by voting for more Pauls, Mashes, and Massies. And 2020 is a redistricting year, meaning that Democrats will redraw every legislative and congressional district heavily in their favor for 10 years if they win your legislature. No libertarian for position on your ballot? Vote for the Republican and stop gun grabbers from redistricting your whole state in their favor. I'm Representative Max Abramson, former libertarian candidate for governor, and I approve this message.
Free Talk Live.
Rights are inherent because we're humans, and they're a good idea that we respect among one another. Look, I mean, I believe in the I believe in your right to defend yourself. So if you want to,
don't you believe in the right as a country to defend our borders?
Collectives don't have rights. Only individuals have rights.
No, we have right as a collective, as a country.
No, I don't think that you can grant something to a collective that you don't have yourself. So you don't have the right to, like, put a gun to my head and take money from me, right?
No, certainly not.
Okay, well then you wouldn't have the ability to grant that to a collective. You wouldn't have, you and 10 other people getting together wouldn't be able to create a collective right to put a gun to my head and take my money, would you?
Then what do we have government for?
I don't know, man. It's something we've been saddled with for a long time, and I think it's about time that we end it.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Love what we do? Please help support our international satellite channels at patreon.lrn.fm. That's patreon.lrn.fm.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Free Talk Live, the call-in talk show, radio program, and online stream where you can take control of the airwaves by dialing 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, like freedom. You can take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever you like, talk about what we're talking about tonight, or anything we've talked about previously. The choice is yours. In the studio tonight, it's myself, Ian, and nobody. And we began this hour talking about the Great Barrington Declaration and its rebuttals, and how all of the rebuttals are essentially false because of the resurgence in all of the extreme lockdown measures. And that is just a lead up into what I wanted to bring in and talk about tonight, which is an additional article from the American Institute of Economic Research, written by Jeffrey Tucker, called Death by Lockdown. On March 28th, very early in the pandemic, AIER published an article that I felt at the time received far too little attention. Drugs, Suicide, and Crime: Empirical Estimates of the Human Toll of the Shutdown, by economists Audrey and Thomas Duncan, cited empirical literature on the human toll of economic devastation.
So the empire is even coming out opposed to this?
Empirical, right? Yes,
empirical.
Right. This article forecast more than 100,000 excess deaths due to drug overdoses, suicide, alcoholism, homicide, and untreated depression, all a result not of the virus, but of policies of mandatory human separation, economic downturn, business and school closures, closed medical services, and general depression that comes with a loss of freedom and choice.
Now, I mean, I hate to say we told you so, but this is something we also predicted very early on, just as a natural outcome. I don't think we, had any idea of how many people it would be. They made a prediction of 100,000. I wonder, is it even possible to measure these things accurately?
But isn't the occasional human sacrifice just the cost of keeping the sun coming up?
If we sacrifice only one life, doesn't that make it all worthwhile?
Yes.
Wait, no, that doesn't make sense. What do they say? They say, if we save only one life.
Yeah,
right,
if it only saves one life.
If it saves just one
then
life.
Then a lockdown is totally fine.
So these two economists demonstrated that as bad as a virus is, policies that wreck normal social functioning will cause massive and completely unnecessary suffering and death. Because the article was so well cited with references to all the available literature, I thought it would make a difference, but after it appeared, it was crickets. I was amazed. Here you have a beautiful piece of research that perfectly forecasted the nightmare being created by politicians and their advisors, and it made no dent in the national narrative. Here we are 7 months later, and the worst has come true. These two economists should be considered
God, it's been
prophets.
7 months?
Mm-hmm.
What have I been doing?
Go ahead. I don't know. You've been here pretty much every Monday, so at least you've got that going for you.
Okay, good. Well, I can account for myself for at least part of this time.
All right. Otherwise, you're Schrodinger's nobody. If you're not here, I don't know if you exist or not.
Which is kind of funny because I'm nobody's Schrodinger.
These two economists should be considered prophets. Sure enough, the Centers for Disease Control has documented a shocking number of excess deaths not from COVID. Scott Atlas summarizes: Hispanic, 40% excess deaths not COVID-related. Black, 46% not COVID-related. White, 38% not COVID-related. Age 25 to 44, 77% excess deaths not COVID-related. And 65 plus coming in at 39% not COVID-related. Those are startling statistics. The most startling data concerns the age group 25 to 44. This is a group with COVID-related infection fatality rate of 0.0092%, which is to say barely a disease at all for nearly everyone in this group. And yet they are dying at a rate far above what is expected, and mostly from issues not related to COVID.
And what percentage of them are men?
I do not know.
Because I know men are like 92% of the suicides most of the time.
There should not be any excess deaths, says Tucker. Instead, we find people dropping dead in ways that are shocking. Now, they show some charts here that are obviously difficult to describe on the radio. I'll make sure that we post the link to this article. You can see the charts. They do say these excess deaths have profoundly and disproportionately affected minority communities.
What are the charts generally showing? Is it possible to give us some sort of idea of what you're looking at?
I looked at them, and they give you so figure 2 is a percentage change in the weekly number of deaths in 2020 relative to the average in the same weeks during 2015 through 2019 by age group. These are numbers from the CDC itself.
So I thought fewer people were dying overall during this epidemic. This is the first time I've heard of excess deaths.
Yeah,
and that's kind of funny that they're not from the epidemic; they're from the government.
The relevant part,
funny in a sick sort of way.
They show one graph that says percentage change in the weekly numbers of deaths in 2020 relative to the average numbers during 2015 to 2019 by race and ethnicity. And it says the relevant part of this CDC graph, which marks above expected deaths this year, are the dark blue and black proportions of the graph, which indicate the non-COVID deaths.
Okay, but can you tell us what you're looking at? I don't know what we're...
It's
what we're really
graph
talking
with
about.
Numbers on it.
I understand that, but what are...
So it's number of deaths, of excess deaths on the left column. It's the dates on the right column. They've got total number above average, all causes, total number upper bound threshold, all causes, total number above average, all causes, excluding COVID.
I'm sorry, I asked. It's not really explaining it for me. I guess I was just kind of asking you what we're seeing there. I can see the little black humps are relatively
I'm
small.
getting to that. I wanted to skip these for a very good reason, but that's okay. So
I don't think the captain's the guy to explain math.
Okay.
Well,
it's hard to talk about graphs on the radio.
Yeah,
I get it.
And it's hard to describe these charts and what they're actually saying without you actually visually seeing them yourself. So a picture is worth 1,000 words. So now consider the CDC's attempt to mask what's really going on here, carefully trying not to use the word lockdown. This is a quote from the CDC. Overall, an estimated 299,028 excess deaths have occurred in the United States from late January through October 3rd, 2020, with 2/3 of these attributed to COVID-19. The largest percentage increases were seen among adults aged 25 to 44 years old and among Hispanic or Latino persons. These results provided information about the degree to which COVID-19 deaths might be under-ascertained and inform efforts to prevent mortality directly or indirectly associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, such as efforts to minimize disruption to healthcare.
So 2/3 of them are due to government reaction to COVID?
That's the CDC's way of saying these policies are killing people. We've got more Free Talk Live coming up.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. DIVI project.org.
She's a purebred, orange and white Brittany, but when we adopted April, she started scratching like crazy. I said, what you put into a dog is what you get out. DINOVITE.com. So we added a huge scoop of Dinovite in her bowl. She licked it clean. She loved it. Her coat is now soft, it's silky. Dinovite is nutrition.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
On Dinovite, she's Little Miss Hollywood. DINOVITE.com.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me.
Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait a minute.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Why are you running from me?
Because you're scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
Now you can follow LRN.FM on the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm.
Welcome back, everybody, to Free Talk Live. I am your host this evening, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me in studio, it's
Ian.
And nobody.
Our toll-free number, of course, is 855-450-3733 or 855-450-FREE, like freedom. If you want to join the fun, we'll get to some of your calls and thoughts in just a minute. We've been talking about a pair of articles from the American Institute for Economic Research that not only suggest that the lockdown policies of governments around the globe are killing people, but they also provide data to back up their claims. This includes the scientists and medical personnel in the Great Barrington Declaration, as well as the writer of this particular article, Jeffrey Tucker, who does cite his sources very well, and also links to an additional article that we'll jump to here in a minute.
So before we went away there, nobody, I think, misunderstood what was being said in this paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
He had thought that the 2/3 number that they were referring to, that the roughly 2/3 of the 300,000 or so excess deaths this year had come from COVID. He thought it was that they'd come from something besides COVID, but they're saying it came from COVID. So that means that 1/3 of those came from something besides COVID, which they're suggesting would be suicide. It would be drug overdoses.
Oh, okay. I thought the 2/3 included both COVID deaths and deaths due to the lockdowns that were supposedly indirectly due to COVID. I still don't know anybody who's sick.
Interesting. So the very last part of this says these results provide information about the degree to which COVID-19 deaths might be under-ascertained and inform efforts to prevent mortality directly or indirectly associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, such as efforts to minimize disruption to healthcare.
Okay, so what they're suggesting there seems to be that they want you to think that the other third could be related to COVID, but they're saying they can't say that for sure, so they're just claiming that they might be under ascertained. So they're suggesting that they think that it could be more than 2/3 that are attributed to COVID, but they don't know.
Tucker says that's the CDC's way of saying these policies are killing people. So he attributes that, we'll call it 100,000, to the policies.
Just wait until the wave of homelessness hits.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's going to be a huge wave of death because a lot of these people around here don't have any idea how to be homeless and survive.
Indeed. As for minimizing disruptions to healthcare, a major factor here is that people have been completely avoiding getting healthcare this year for fear of COVID, for fear of contact tracing, and also because many medical services have been forcibly reserved for people with COVID.
Right. Somebody was just telling me
and to hell with everybody else, right?
Yeah. Somebody was just telling me the other day that they couldn't get an elective surgery done because it wasn't COVID related, and so therefore, sorry, you can't do that. It was actually a vasectomy. They couldn't find somebody to give them a vasectomy.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got this facial infection, which actually they matter because if you've got an infection on your face, it can easily get into the brain, which can cause real trouble. And there's no way I'm going to get anything done about it. And it's not because I'm scared of the COVID. It's because I'm scared they're going to I'm going to go in there and they give me a test and throw me in a concentration camp. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, you certainly don't. This report avoids speculation about the causes of these mysterious deaths, but does offer this one hint. Specifically, deaths from circulatory diseases, Alzheimer's disease, and dementia, and respiratory diseases have increased in 2020 relative to past years, and it is unclear to what extent these represent misclassified COVID-19 deaths or deaths directly related to the pandemic, e.g., because of the disruptions in healthcare or access or utilization.
Or maybe the fact that being miserable is really bad for your immune system.
Tucker says that's a rather cold way of saying that the lockdowns have failed completely to protect the most vulnerable and instead increased deaths amongst the oldest population, too. Let's go ahead and go to your calls and your thoughts because we have the Christian anarchist with us who does have some medical expertise here. Gene, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, I didn't really call about medical stuff, but I can if you have something that you would like me to address, I can. I called about the army of professional trolls by this Chinese Communist Party. But if you
let's talk about that by all means. It is Free Talk Live after all.
I didn't know they had trolls in China.
Yeah, they do, and they have probably at least 500,000 to 1 million professional troll army that attacks our internet and comments on things. So trolls can cause a lot of problems, and they've always been an issue. I don't really mind trolls myself because I know how to deal with them. But when you have an army of trolls where there's one of you and 10,000 of them, all of a sudden things get totally out of hand. You don't have a chance to address them. But I have this issue on like YouTube, where there'll be some YouTube videos that are pro-China, and they're obviously propaganda by the Communist Party. And I don't even like to use the word pro-China because it's pro-communist Chinese, because there's a China that's not communist. It's called Taiwan.
Right.
And so you can't really say China, and I'm trying not to say that, but the CCP, let's use that term. But the CCP has an army, and they just have rooms full of people in China that do nothing but get online and make comments under these videos. And they're easy to find because anytime you click on one of those people who's making a comment and you look at their profile, you'll see, number one, that they're relatively new. They have no videos, they have no views, they have no anything. They're there for one purpose, and that's to make pro-Chinese comments under all these things. And they bury anybody who tries to talk about liberty or freedom. And I see it as a personal threat to our internet. And
Interesting.
It really is.
Is there, so I always like to compare the digital version to the analog version. So, Gene, I'm an older dude. I'm about 48 years old. And what was
You're a young kid.
Okay, but what was the analog version of trolls before the internet?
Well, the analog version would have just been somebody, dissing you on a street corner or that kind of thing. So before the internet, and I go all the way back to news groups, and I used to post a lot on news groups.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed news groups because that was literally the Wild West. Everything went on the news groups.
Right.
There was no censorship, no nothing. And I actually thrived there. I loved it. But unfortunately, we don't have anything like that currently.
Do you know if these troll?
Oh God, I miss the internet from before AOL.
Oh yeah. Do you know if these troll places are hiring? Because I bet you I could be a pretty good internet troll.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if you'd feel too good about yourself at the end of the day, praising the CCP over and over.
Internet troll, though.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd take the job. I was being facetious, but
yeah, it is, and it's unfortunate because I see it as damaging to our internet, and they don't even live here. I mean, it's not like they have any vested interest in what goes on our internet. Yet they feel that they have a duty to go online and destroy, people's comments. And, it's one thing where somebody makes a comment and then you make a reference to it and rebut it. And then you come back and you rebut that. But it's one thing when you make a comment and 15 to 30 comments come flying at you. There's no way, you don't have the time. You cannot possibly spend the time to respond to all these trolls.
Yeah.
And it does, I think, influence people. There are people being influenced by this deluge of comments that are pro-CCP.
I have seen the trolls myself, and thanks for the call tonight, Gene. We do appreciate it. They are out and in full force. 855-450-3733 is our toll-free number if you'd like to comment. This is Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate an endless supply of natural silver solutions. SilverLungs.com. You'll find no wild claims or pseudoscience, just a lifetime of nano-sized pure silver solutions. The Silver Lungs generator allows you to make your own, so stop paying for silver solutions. The unique lung delivery system targets respiratory infections where other silver solutions simply cannot reach. See the Silver Lungs generator and lung delivery system at SilverLungs.com. That's SilverLungs.com.
At 58 years of age, I noticed a dramatic energy decline. After a 5-day work week, I had to use one of my days off to rest and recover. I also had cut my gym visits down from 3 times a week to once a week. Since I began using Green Meadow Whey, my energy level has greatly improved. I no longer have to take a day to recover. I have increased my gym visits back to 3 times a week. I'm actually more active and feeling better now than I have in the last 5 years. It's so nice to wake up in the morning feeling good and ready to go. Before trying Green Meadow Whey, I must have tried every whey protein product on the market, and every one of them caused me bloating, gas, and constipation. I've had no such issues with Green Meadow Whey. In fact, I'm sleeping better, my vision has improved, and surprisingly, my emotional and mental state has also improved. I love what Green Meadow Whey has done for me.
Green Meadow Whey comes from milk derived from grass-pastured cows. To order, call 888-988-3325 or visit greenmeadowwhey.com.
Do the letters IRS give you anxiety? I'm Dan Pilla. I've defended people from the IRS for more than 40 years. My book, How to Get Tax Amnesty, created the tax resolution industry and is responsible for helping hundreds of thousands of people. It can help you too. If you're a non-filer or facing IRS enforcement right now, your case is unique. You need real help, not cookie-cutter advice. My clients get my personal attention. Buy my book at danpilla.com and get a free consultation directly with me. That's danpilla.com. Let's start solving your tax problem right now.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. It is Free Talk Live. Our toll-free number here is 855-450-3733. You can dial in and talk about whatever's on your mind. That's 855-450, free like freedom. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
It's Ian.
And nobody.
We have been talking about people dying from the government's lockdown mandates, the measures that have been put in place by governments around the globe, and the fatal effects of those mandates.
Hey, sometimes you got to break a few eggs to save a life.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to take a few lives to save a life.
That's kind of what I meant there.
Well, but we repeat ourselves.
Yeah.
I wanted to and we'll talk more about this in just a minute, but I wanted to tell you that Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or even meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. That's local.bitcoin.com. So Jeffrey Tucker continues with this article from the American Institute for Economic Research over at AIER.org. So far as I know, this is the first full accounting of what's been going on beneath the COVID-covered surface, a topic on which the media has shown almost no interest at all. Surprise! I'm not surprised.
I remember when the media used to have a little spunk, but these days they seem to be completely subsumed by mostly the Democratic Party, but the Democratic and Republican parties both.
Well, and even the one, like, if there is a journalist that might have some balls and, like, you know, sort of go rogue and somehow get an article published that, you know, is in disagreement with his superiors, they get fired and then blacklisted and they can never get a job again. So,
well, in the case of Glenn Greenwald, as we talked about last week, he walked away from the website that he founded.
Yeah. How ridiculous is that?
Yeah.
His own creation. He's like, I don't see any other choice but to resign.
Yeah, and he understands that he's not going to get a job at this point, that every job he's had, I mean, for the most part, has had put some sort of restrictions on him. And so he's just kind of striking out and doing his own thing, which is ultimately, hopefully, what we'll see real journalists like him do. And John Stossel, of course, has been doing it for years.
Yeah, but he's doing it on an independent level, if I am not mistaken.
Yes, I think John Stossel is as well.
That's what I meant, was John Stossel doing independently, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
As is Glenn Greenwald.
Okay. Tucker says you can read at the American Medical Association about overdoses, or a full roundup from ABC News, and we will go take a look at that article momentarily. But he continues, people are dying across all demographics due to the radical transformation of life itself. In addition, new research is showing that there has been a huge increase in excess deaths in eldercare homes, probably due to despair and loneliness from the prevention of family visits. And we talked about that last night on this show, which you can find at archive.freetalklive.com.
Yeah, I mean, that's all those people have. I mean, when you're 80, 90 years old, or however old you might be inside a nursing home, you know, your family visits are pretty much all you got besides sitting around the day room and watching TV with the other people who are on death's door.
Well, and think about those who don't even have family, and their only interaction was like at mealtime in the cafeteria and that kind of thing. And again, we covered a bit of this last night, but that's all been restricted due to COVID. So even that little tiny amount of human interaction they'd get from just the employees has been restricted.
Why, are they feeding them in their room now or something?
Yes, indeed. So anyway, Tucker continues, the whole pattern
Welcome
here...
to your cage. Here's where you're going to die.
Indeed. The whole pattern is extraordinarily and deeply tragic. It was also entirely predictable. And again, Ian, you brought up that we did, in fact, predict this here on Free Talk Live. I think several hosts had their own version of, oh my gosh, this is what's going to happen. And sure enough, it is happening. Instead of dealing rationally with a textbook virus, as we had done during the whole of the 20th century, we embarked on a new social political experiment in lockdowns. We attempted to intimidate a virus with PhDs and political power, hoping that it would shrivel and die, and in so doing, dramatically disabled human freedom and social functioning. What do we have to show for it? Massive carnage and a virus that is still with us.
And a relatively immobile libertarian population that still has not yet seen the wisdom in migrating together to the same place. I don't know what it's going to take. I really don't. I mean, how much more failure do they need? Do they need to see another presidential campaign fail? Because that'll happen. You know, that's happening. And how many lockdowns do they need? How many businesses need to be destroyed before they finally pick up?
How many people need to die?
Yeah, and migrate here to New Hampshire.
Well, in a lot of cases, you know, businesses are what are one of the reasons that people don't want to leave.
That's true.
Where they are. So it may well be that a lot of people will be freed of the
obligation.
Freed of the obligation and freed of, sadly, the good life they built for themselves somewhere else. And
well, hopefully they're able.
Maybe they'll come here. It's better than suicide. It's a lot better than suicide. If you're a libertarian, you're not happy where you are, come to New Hampshire. See if that might change.
Yeah, I mean, just being around like-minded people should be a boon to your mood, your self-esteem, etc., and so on. I know that it has been for mine. So, thank you to all you guys, of course, and everybody that I've met since I moved here.
We've been having fun.
I've been having. It's really sad in ways because the world has turned upside down and on its head and gone in directions that I didn't think would happen this quickly, and it has. And yet, on some levels, I am living the best life I have yet to have lived, right? In the time that I've spent on this planet, I'm having a good time. I'm doing well. I'm thriving here, at least by my own personal assessment. So,
it is a far, far better thing he does than he has ever done.
But I do give a whole bunch of credit to, like-minded folks, other liberty-minded, freedom-minded people that are here, whether you're a libertarian with a capital L and a party supporter or an anarchist and you don't vote, to me, you're friends of the captain. You're the ones who want freedom for everybody, and you are welcome here in my book.
And especially if you're a libertarian, if you're an anarchist who does vote, because voters and anarchists are not a disjoint group. And we've actually got 12 anarchists in our state house. I mean, they're probably not there now. It's late.
Yeah. So we will go talk about this ABC News article titled "Predictions of More Suicides, Overdoses, and Domestic Abuse During COVID Are Coming True" in just a little bit. But first, let's go to the phones with Larry in Indiana. Larry, you're on Free Talk Live.
Well, another thing that I predicted would happen now, because, human nature has not changed one bit. Now they want the tracking so that they can track you when you go into a restaurant, and they also have laws that they can have you quarantined or isolated without notice on a directive from the health department.
Now, is this happening in Indiana where they're mandating the restaurant stuff?
They're mandating your server to get your name and your pertinent information so they can say that there was somebody in your restaurant that had COVID, and we're going to track down everybody and that he came in contact with and quarantine them for 14 days. Now, who can take 14 days off of their work because of some virus, either real or imagined, the qualities of this virus, and the people that are doing this don't know anything about the virus. If they did, they would have a cure. There should be some kind of revolt against this.
Yeah, there should be, Larry. You're right. And in fact, I had another article here for Show Prep today from, it's actually via MSN News, but it's a New York Times article. It's Crystal Watson, a senior scholar at the Center for Health Security at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, who estimated that tracing, this is contact tracing, coronavirus cases becomes difficult, if not impossible, once the virus spreads to more than 10 cases per 100,000 people. So
they can use it arbitrarily to get individuals, and the language goes also groups of individuals that they want to quarantine.
Right.
I think this is something diabolical. I think that have been well planned out, and it's just about the money and transfer of wealth from poor people on up the ladder. And I think
you nailed it there, Larry.
Yeah.
The people that are involved in it, they know what they're doing. I mean, you can't go on a doctor's directive.
Nail on the head, Larry. We do appreciate the call. Thank you very much. 855-450-3733 is our toll-free number if you'd like to weigh in. This is Free Talk Live, the Monday night edition. Hour number 2 is coming up.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be a part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for people to use it for everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that is as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
The battle for the Keystone State. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Both candidates made campaign stops today in Pennsylvania, with the former vice president hoping for a victory at his birth state.
Pennsylvania went for President Trump by less than a point 4 years ago, and this time around polling is very tight, though Biden has had the edge. Biden's been rallying in key swing states, and Monday addressed union workers in Monica, Pennsylvania, where he never said he'd ban fracking.
This is the first president I'm aware of. The 6 top generals that work for him, 6 4-star admirals and generals, they all left saying he wasn't worthy of being commander-in-chief. They quit.
More than 3 million voters in Pennsylvania have requested to vote by mail, and this state is allowing absentee ballots to be counted up to 3 days beyond Election Day. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Biden will be in Pennsylvania tomorrow. President Trump with a more aggressive campaign schedule today. He was near Scranton earlier.
If you want your children to be safe, if you want your values to be respected, if you want to be treated with honor, dignity, and respect, then I am asking you to go and vote for Trump.
The president back in Michigan now. He's expected to be in Wisconsin later tonight. A federal judge in Texas has rejected a last-ditch effort by state Republicans to invalidate nearly 127,000 ballots in Houston that were cast in drive-through polling centers due to the pandemic.
We're proud that we're going to be able to count those votes. And we are proud to be preserving democracy at a time when democracy itself is being attacked.
Harris County Clerk Chris Hollins, the county is the nation's 3rd most populous. 2 people are dead, including a gunman. At least 15 others hurt in what authorities in Austria are calling a terror attack near a synagogue in Vienna. Several other attackers believed to be at large. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, it's Adam Carolla from The Adam Carolla Show. If you're a business owner, you don't need me telling you that running a business is tough. Don't let QuickBooks and spreadsheets slow you down. Upgrade to NetSuite. Stop paying for multiple systems that don't give you the info you need when you need it. Ditch the spreadsheets and old software. Upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you visibility and control over financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more, all in one place instantaneously, whether you're doing millions in sales or hundreds of millions in revenue. Save time, save money with NetSuite. Join the over 21,000 companies using NetSuite right now. Let NetSuite show you how they can benefit your business with a free product tour at netsuite.com/Adam. That's a free product tour at netsuite.com/Adam.
Arizona, just one of the many states where people have taken advantage of early voting.
Out of the 3.4 million ballots requested in the state, more than 2.3 million have been returned. In Maricopa County, more ballots have been returned than the entire number of people who voted in 2016. This is the second largest voting jurisdiction in the country next to Los Angeles. That means they have the second largest number of registered voters for a jurisdiction that administers election. It's so important, which is why the campaigns have their surrogates on the ground.
Fox's Alicia Acuna. Kansas has set another record for its largest number of reported coronavirus cases over 7 days based on state health department data. Kansas had a rolling average of just over 1,500 new confirmed and probable cases a day for the 7 days ending today. The state health department added more than 4,000 cases to the state's count since Friday. Cases of COVID-19 in Ohio are also starting to surge.
The Ohio Department of Health says coronavirus cases in the state increased.
LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm.
Following the conclusion of yet another day marked by a litany of tedious and unavoidable realities, The Onion spoke with sociologist Dr. Timothy Coghill, who told reporters that the nation would be forced to go through all of it again tomorrow.
As our projections demonstrate, tomorrow, like today, every man, woman, and child in America will wake up and do it all again. All of it, including traffic, the workday, bad coffee, your kid's soccer game, laundry, the struggling economy.
Statistical evidence also showed that the nation would once again endure traumatic childhood memories, Twitter, anxiety, poverty, consumerism, rampant abuses of the legal system,
joint pain, racial inequality, global warming, the steady erosion of civil liberties, violence, loneliness, disease, unresolved intimacy issues, the ravages of age, hunger, sexual frustration, existential dread, the looming specter of death.
For more on this unending story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome back to Free Talk Live, everybody. Going into hour number 2 on this Monday night edition. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass.
It's Ian.
And nobody.
Our toll-free number is 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, as in freedom. And we will get to your calls and thoughts momentarily. I just wanted to kick this ABC News article off. The title is Predictions of More Suicides, Overdoses, and Domestic Abuse During COVID Are Coming True. And this was part of Free Talk Live's predictions when the lockdowns first started occurring. When you essentially put people in prison in their own homes, you're going to see an increase in this. It just seems to me to be human nature. I don't know about the rest of you, but it was rather easy to predict.
It was depressing, even for me, and I'm a relatively optimistic person about the future. And man, in the beginning of this, and even still to some extent now, it looks pretty bleak. And so I could totally understand why somebody who, my lifestyle didn't really change that much, right? Like I work from home,
right?
So I didn't have to go home or anything like that. This is our studio. I live here, right? I do Bitcoin sales mostly on the internet. I run a couple of Bitcoin vending machines here in town. So, there really wasn't much as far as my lifestyle change, but I could definitely feel tangibly that things were worse than they had ever been, and just seeing, of course, no cars out on the road, because I was still, even though I say I work from home, I still do a lot of driving. I was still going out and about and going to restaurants constantly, and we were throwing parties, and still are, social events, and doing like civil disobedience and things like that. But just knowing how obedient people were being and still are, I mean, it's really pretty depressing. So I could totally understand why somebody would say, I don't want to live here anymore.
Well, 9 months later, those grim predictions look like they're coming true, according to this article from ABC News. There is a mental health wave to this pandemic. Dr. Ken Duckworth, Chief Medical Officer of the National Alliance for Mental Illness, told ABC News, "We as a species don't do very well with uncertainty. The pandemic for many Americans has exacerbated already stressful scenarios, deaths of loved ones, illnesses, loss of income," according to psychiatrists Thomas Holmes and Richard Rahi.
We also, as a species, don't do real well with lockdowns and being in what is essentially a state of solitary confinement. That just doesn't fly with mental health.
Yeah, well, and I am a self-proclaimed eleutheromaniac. For those of you who don't know the definition, that eleutheromaniac is just a person who has an unstoppable desire or zeal for freedom. And if this applies to you, well, perhaps you are an eleutheromaniac as well. And so, yeah, it definitely has an impact on me. But this article says, additionally, stay-at-home orders and school closures, important actions to prevent the virus spread, have created downstream consequences such as social isolation, eroding support networks, and additional financial strain. All these factors are contributing to more suicides, more overdoses, more violence, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And specialists warn that this mental health pandemic within the pandemic also will disproportionately affect blacks, Hispanics, and elderly people of lower socioeconomic statuses of all races, and healthcare workers. They specifically call out healthcare workers as the most affected, including the lower socioeconomic category. So we'll continue to talk about this a little bit, but first let's go to some of your calls and your thoughts. We have Logan calling from Blackstone, Virginia. Logan, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hello, Logan.
Logan going once.
Let's put him back on hold.
Logan going twice. No, Logan. All right. Let's go to Representative Max Abramson in Seabrook, New Hampshire. Max, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Exhausted as hell. I've been campaigning my butt off on the seacoast, trying to help some of the other Liberty Republicans. I do a lot of recruiting to get pro-Liberty people running for legislature, especially State House, and we have in New Hampshire a pretty good team. But we were looking at like voting records on obviously gun issues, tax issues, business issues, property rights, school choice. And I think New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, which just looks at New Hampshire, they found that average Democrats only votes pro-liberty about 23% of the time on average. The average Republican votes pro-liberty about 75% of the time.
Interesting.
So, yep, you've got, well, I mean, it's pretty broad range for Republicans. Your average generic Republican is not that fantastic. Their scores range from like 41% to 100%. So there were a few who are just like, you know, I would say kind of a generic placeholder. But you have a lot of libertarians who are going to show up to vote tomorrow, and there might only be, 2 or 3 libertarians on their ballot. But then you look at all these other down ticket races, state Senate, state House, some of the county races and some of the local races. And if they're partisan and they don't know a lot about the races, libertyballot.com usually not always recommends the Republican because they consistently have 50-55% better Liberty scores.
Now, I'm curious, Max, real quick, if this takes into account some of the candidates that may not be running as libertarian. For example, Aria DeMezzo, our co-host here on Free Talk Live, is running as a Republican for Cheshire County Sheriff, and so that won't show up as a libertarian. So does your research include that?
Well, no, they looked at incumbents who were in there. We've only had a couple of, I served as a libertarian for 2 terms, and obviously, we had Caleb Dyer and Brandon Finney and a few others who are serving, Joseph Stalkop. We've had a few libertarians serving as libertarians, but I mean, when you get down to, maybe 90% of your ballot, there's no big L libertarian candidate on your ballot. There's no Constitution Party, Pirate Party. None of the pro-liberty parties are represented.
Okay.
And all you've got is basically a Democrat versus a Republican. But what we found is even your generic
Liberty ballot is an embarrassment, honestly. I mean, it's basically a pro-Republican piece that is, I'm looking here just as an example at the Keene Liberty ballot. So for listeners that aren't familiar, it's a website that supposedly some free staters...
Didn't they endorse Sununu?
Well, that's the thing. They didn't actually endorse Sununu, surprisingly, but they also didn't endorse Darrell W. Perry, the obvious liberty choice in the gubernatorial race. But if that wasn't bad enough, they also completely ignored Matt Roach, who is one of the libertarians who's running as a Republican here in Keene for state representative. And they also did not endorse Aria DiMezzo, who is obviously the liberty choice in Cheshire County Sheriff here. So, Go ahead.
I wish LibertyBallot.com would always support the pro-liberty candidate.
Yeah.
But even a lot of the Second Amendment groups and taxpayers groups, just randomly they'll just kind of leave something blank. I had my first year, there was a Second Amendment group that didn't endorse me, and I have a 100% score on Second Amendment issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I never found out why, and ever since then, all the gun groups, all the Second Amendment groups now endorse me every time I run.
I'm actually glad you called tonight, Max, because I had a question. I saw a news piece from Reopen NH today where they said they I guess submitted an amicus brief to a Supreme Court case here in New Hampshire. Apparently, the Democrats in the legislature are trying to move the public hearings that they're supposed to have for every bill in the state legislature. They're trying to make those online only. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, all of our committee hearings, I'm on House, Municipal, and County. They've been doing all of our committee hearings online ever since the lockdown. Obviously, I'm against the lockdown. It's counterproductive. No matter how dangerous you think the coronavirus is, the lockdown and masks are actually working against public safety.
Well, Reopen New Hampshire's argument was that this is actually straight up unconstitutional to take these out of the public view and going online only.
Hey, Max, do you want to hang on? We'll bring you back after the break. Thanks. Our toll-free number here is 855-450-3733. This is Free Talk Live. We've got more coming up.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org. News from news.bitcoin.com. Bitcoin tops 13,000 and breaks its own record for consecutive days above 10,000. Satoshi Nakamoto, if alive, enters the top 200 world's wealthiest people. DC International Monetary Fund Manager warns of major financial reset imminent. PayPal begins selling and accepting Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes mainstream. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive, and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by DJ Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Bane Books at banebooks.com.
Did you know you can support freedom of speech just by visiting shop.freetalklive.com? You'll see links to Walmart, Love Java, Newegg, and more. Every day, Free Talk Live is at the forefront of the liberty movement as the biggest liberty-oriented talk show in the world, giving you a platform to be heard on any topic. Get listener-only specials without doing anything other than an extra click. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. Use the links and buy what you'd be buying anyway. Take action now. Save and support freedom. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. It's shop.freetalklive.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
The talk is free. The talk is live. It's Free Talk Live. We're here 7 nights a week to talk about, well, whatever's on your mind. And generally, we speak about things from the perspective of freedom. Our toll-free number here is 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, like freedom. If you want to dial in, take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever's on your mind. We've been talking tonight about many things. Most recently, we were talking with Max Abramson, and we'll get back to his call in just a minute. But I wanted to tell you that you've heard us talk about Divvy here on Free Talk Live, and maybe you've wanted to set up one of their easy-to-deploy masternodes or even stake Divvy so that you can begin earning Divvy right now. Ian says setting up a Divvy masternode was super easy, and staking was even easier. We're not investment advisors here on Free Talk Live, but we think you will be impressed with your earning potential with Divvy as compared to traditional investment vehicles. Go to divvyproject.org and get started. You can buy Divvy at several exchanges or directly from the Divvy team. If you need help, there's a link to their Telegram channel right on the front page at divvyproject.org. That's D-I-V-I project.org. Let's go back to Max. Max, thanks for holding. And wanted to give you a minute to rebut what Ian had said.
Well, it wasn't a rebuttal that I was asking for.
Response,
I was just inquiring. I saw the news today. Max is a state representative here in New Hampshire. He's a mover, I believe, for the Free State Project. And so I figured you would know about what happened. I'd heard that it was all Democrats in the state house who voted to move the public hearings, because in New Hampshire, for listeners that don't know, we're supposed to have a public hearing on every bill, meaning that anybody who wants to can show up at a public hearing for whichever bill they want to talk about and talk directly to the state representatives on the committee that are hearing that legislation. And now they're doing this online only, which, while one could argue increases the number of people who in theory could attend one of these hearings because now they're online, also means if you don't have online access, you are shut out from these hearings. And I just wanted to know what you thought about
And even if you do, you're silenced.
Max?
Right. Yeah, so I've done a number of these. Now, executive sessions on bills, which is where we just kind of vote bills up or down or amend it or change it, those are also public hearings, but the public doesn't speak on those.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not objecting to having executive sessions on bills be done that way. But even there, I'd rather have it be done in Concord and be done in public view, with the public at least being able to raise their hand, ask a question, make a comment. But committee hearings on bills, when bills are actually introduced, the state constitution says that has to be done in Concord, it has to be done in public, and the public has a constitutional right, or at least a right under the rules, to speak on every single bill that comes up. It's one of the great things about the New Hampshire legislature.
So, but is something else being done about this? I mean, I understand there's some sort of a court case. Do you know who's involved in this case? Are you familiar with it?
So what we did is we basically requested that the New Hampshire Supreme Court look at the issue, and the issue of contention was whether or not the New Hampshire Supreme Court should look at the whole state constitution or just one small provision. The Democrats only wanted to narrow it down to one really small provision, which favored them, and we wanted the New Hampshire Supreme Court to look at the entire state constitution, which is pretty explicit that everything has to be done in Concord, either the LOB or the State House. You have to have public hearings. The public has to be able to have the right to have a say on bills and so forth. And so that was yet another partisan issue where all of the Republicans favored transparency, but the Democrats just outnumber us 233 to 166, I think.
So are you able to request the state Supreme Court review something even though you're in the minority?
Nope, it has to be a majority. And it was one where the Democrats whipped their members. Whip doesn't mean like taking an actual, bullwhip and cracking the whip, but effectively that's what it means on their side. There's a state primary, and the Democrat state primary is now so rigidly controlled that anyone who doesn't vote the way they're told every single time, or I think 97% of the time, gets tossed. They get primaried. They bring out some activists. They move a whole bunch of voters. They tell them, hey, you got to vote for this other candidate. And if a maverick Democrat wins their primary, and this isn't just New Hampshire, this is all over the country now, or most of the country, certainly the West Coast, and certainly New Hampshire, where I am, is they'll actually get all of their establishment Democrat voting bloc, and they'll turn them out to vote for the Republican to get rid of a maverick Democrat. So they really control. If you vote for someone who runs as a Democrat, we've had a few pro-freedom people who ran as Democrats, and they had to vote for Obamacare and rail systems and all these kind of, tax increases and big government stuff, Common Core, Obamacare, and so forth, that they didn't want to support. And you get very, very little actual leeway. If you run as a Republican, you have a lot more flexibility. So if someone's a right libertarian, you can pretty much run for legislature as a Republican. And that's how we've gotten, thousands and thousands of libertarians, small L libertarians, elected to office.
That all sounds like a horrible way to go about selecting people to supposedly lead.
What's that?
Everything you just described.
Well, Captain is a non-voter, so he's not going to be persuaded into this. But I definitely see what you're saying, Max, and we've had some, I would say, success with libertarians running as Republicans here. And as you mentioned, there have been some run as Democrats, but you're saying they've been controlled by the Democratic Party, which is sad.
Controlled and then, or just forced out outright, or they only get 2 or 3 terms in, and they're finally able. I mean, I had Dick Patton, who is an actual Democrat, not libertarian at all, or Chris Roberts, again, he's an actual Democrat, and they primaried him. They spent $52,000, mostly out-of-state money, to get rid of him. He wanted to run for state senate, and they poured money in, they primaried him, and they got somebody they could control for state senator. So
thanks for the
Democrats
update there from the State House.
Appreciate the call tonight, Max. That it's so many hoops to get a thing done.
Politics sucks.
It's a horrible thing.
It's horrifying to be there.
And then the amount of, I don't know what the right word is, the amount of shadiness or shiftiness that is required to do something that Max has just described seems like a whole bunch of effort for very little in return outside of that, you wanted to railroad some guy out.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, if it was... Unfortunately, we can actually have an effect on it, from what I can tell, and so I still think it's worth the effort. I mean, for those who are willing to put up with that crap, to put up with that system and how frustrating it can be, because it is frustrating. I mean, some of these state reps don't even last more than one term because it sucks so bad.
Yeah.
Politics is awful.
It just, I mean... what he was describing sounded ugly, and what bothers me the most is that it sounds like you have to be a very ugly person to do those things. You know what I mean? To carry those out, to plan them, to put forth the things in motion, to make that all go.
Or at least you have to hold your nose. I mean, it's bad.
Well, you don't have to do it that way. That's, I tried to be a decent person even when I was running for office.
Yeah. 855-450-3733 is our number if you would like to weigh in. This is Free Talk Live. We've got more coming up.
Moose is the German Shepherd, now 11, and he's been an amazing dog. Moose is so active and so alert and hasn't had any kind of health problems at all. He has a beautiful coat, and at 11, he'll still run and chase the ball. He has been on Dynavite since he's a puppy.
Dynavite for life.
Because if they're getting all their vitamins, micronutrients, microbials from the beginning, then you're not going to run into the problems associated with the grass, pollen, dust, dirt, fleas, ticks, you name it, and the itching and shedding down the road. DINOVITE.com. We tell anybody that has a dog, if there was something that you could do right from the beginning so that you don't have expensive veterinary bills, why would you not do it? Get the Dynavite.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dynavite from DINOVITE.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
Yes, it's Free Talk Live. Welcome back, everybody. You can dial in toll-free, 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, like freedom. Does anybody pay tolls for calling anymore? I guess internationally, right? Is long distance a thing of the past?
I mean, if you're going to call internationally, just call us on Matrix. It'll be free.
Yeah, indeed. You could call in and talk about whatever you want, anything we've been talking about tonight. In the studio, it is myself, the captain.
And Ian.
And nobody.
And Intercoin is the next step in the evolution of money. Just as the internet is a global network that connects local networks, Intercoin is a global currency platform that enables communities around the world to issue and manage their own currency to circulate amongst their local population. Intercoin enables fintech innovation on the local community level, leading to stronger communities, greater sustainability, less poverty, and more productivity. Intercoin is attempting to regain some of our freedoms that are threatened on the internet and in meat space. We think that's important here on Free Talk Live, so important that Free Talk Live accepted $40,000 worth of Intercoin tokens from Intercoin Inc. in exchange for advertising. If you think freedom is important too, check out Intercoin at intercoin.org. You can invest in this project and potentially make big gains, or just be involved and perhaps shape its future. Intercoin.org. Circling back to what we've been talking about during the first several segments of tonight's show, we started off talking about the Great Barrington Declaration and how it was rebutted, but then proven true by the increase in lockdowns. And then we also spoke a bit about the yet to be fully counted deaths as a result of governments cracking down, locking down, and many of the policies that have been implemented on citizenry since the events of COVID have occurred, and how these mandates, these lockdowns, are causing people to die, and not just the elderly. We talked a bit about it on last night's episode of Free Talk Live, about the elderly specifically, but we've been talking now about not just the elderly, but the rates of suicide, overdoses, domestic abuse, and other forms of violence. Stay-at-home orders and school closures, important actions which prevent the virus spread, have created downstream consequences such as social isolation, eroding support networks, and additional financial strain.
If it only saves one life, though, it's all totally worth it.
Yeah, I don't know that
Does it have to save one life on balance, though?
Many of these accelerating public health crises have already or were already worsening before COVID-19. In 2018, the U.S. had the highest age-adjusted suicide rates since 1941.
Really?
By June, a CDC survey of 5,470 U.S. adults found that one-third reported anxiety or depression symptoms. About 10% they had considered suicide in the last month, and the rate of suicidal thoughts was highest amongst unpaid caregivers, essential workers, Hispanic or Black respondents, and young adults. People age 18 to 25 may be the most effective group, Duckworth explained.
Affected.
Yeah. We need to take a look at the age impact, Duckworth added. In the age where identity is developed, young adults are missing college.
That is not the reason why they're killing themselves.
Yes.
I think you'd be more likely to kill yourself if you went through college and you ended up with $100,000 in debt, and then you go into this job market.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, this article wasn't written, this ABC News article was not written from the perspective that the Jeffrey Tucker article was written from. This is just, he pointed us to this article to say, here's sort of a broader perspective of what's happening in the world that ABC News actually put together.
Yeah, here's a mainstream media source actually acknowledging this as a problem.
Right.
Whether they will understand the reasons for it is another question.
Right. The opioid epidemic, previously considered the greatest public health threat in the U.S., has also worsened since the virus outbreak.
But you don't hear anything about it.
Of course
you
not.
don't hear anything about that. In fact, somebody else made a good point the other night that you never even hear about the nicotine vapes. Remember a year ago, somebody pointed out, a year ago, it was every headline, everywhere on the news.
We're going to make vapes illegal.
They had a death count, remember?
Yeah.
Every day it was like, here's how many people died from the nicotine vapes.
And we even speculated that because there were reports of COVID surfacing earlier than this year, right, late last year, that it could have possibly been COVID, not the vaping that killed those people.
Because it was like a lung
thing.
It was a respiratory illness.
Or they could have been warming up for COVID with another fake disease that didn't work out for them.
Well, in that case, they did get some political, points, right? Like, but all the fear around that allowed them to raise the smoking age, I believe, nationally to 21. Did they not?
I don't recall
I think they did.
I recall them talking about it. I don't know if it actually went through, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I'm pretty sure that happened. And then they went in and they banned like flavored cigarettes or flavored vapes?
Flavored vape juice,
something like that. I don't know if that was national or like if it was just some states, but they definitely had some, made some real political hay out of that.
Yeah, and just like that, everybody stopped talking about it.
Yeah, where's all the deaths? I mean, because we were told that it was the black market. Actually, it wasn't the nicotine. That it was when people looked and they researched it, they found out that it was allegedly black market THC vapes or cannabis vapes,
right?
That had supposedly like a vitamin E acetate in it as some sort of a filler ingredient, and that was what was allegedly causing the deaths. Well, are we supposed to believe that no one is buying those anymore? I mean, because of course they're still buying those.
Right.
The THC cannabis products are still illegal in most states for recreational purposes. So anybody with a THC vape outside of the legal states that isn't traveling to the states, the legal places to get them, they don't know where those things are coming from. And why would the Chinese manufacturers who are making these things with the vitamin E acetate or whoever it is, why would they change their formula just because a few people
to troll us?
Yeah. Right. Well, regarding the opioids, the opioid epidemic, after overdose deaths briefly plateaued in 2017, stricter regulations of prescription drugs were enacted, and guess what happened? Deaths began creeping upward again because of illegal synthetic substitutes like fentanyl. So,
Shocking.
Go figure. The government bans something or otherwise makes it more difficult to do business or get in some way, shape, or form. People turn to the black market.
Well, one thing we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on tomorrow night is, whether you agree with voting or not, Captain.
Yeah, you're having a voting special, too, after the show.
I'm not having it. Vincent is, but he's invited me to be a part of it, so I will be there on the so it'll be after Free Talk Live tomorrow, after 10 p.m., whenever, I think maybe right away, actually, right at like 10:06. We'll kick off a special episode of Questioning Authority, which is Vincent's show.
Yeah.
We did the same thing in 2016, and so we're going to kind of watch some of the live returns and comment on it. But the most interesting thing for me isn't going to be who wins the presidency, but whether or not the people of Oregon vote for decriminalization of hard drugs.
Oh, yeah, we mentioned that Saturday.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is a first for the United States.
Yeah.
And could be very important if it passes, because then you'll see other states follow, I think.
Go Oregon.
I mean, it's tempting. I might go Oregon.
Beautiful thing.
at least pay it a visit.
I'm kidding.
I think
I'm not going there.
I've got some friends there. I could probably pay a visit. Probably Got a couch I could crash on somewhere?
Yeah, I'm not driving across the country.
No. Oh, right. I would have to fly. Oh, man. No, I guess I'm not going.
Ain't nowhere to get at.
Well, yeah. At any rate, the article continues. We were making some improvement in terms of treatment options for opioid addiction prior to the pandemic. Dr. Harshal Kurain, medical director of Wellbridge Addiction Treatment and Research, told ABC News. However, there were still major treatment gaps that have worsened now that we have a superimposed pandemic.
It's a strange term to use.
Superimposed pandemic. Yeah.
So they're admitting that the pandemic was imposed?
Superimposed.
Superimposed.
Not just imposed, superimposed. I don't know what that means.
I don't know either, because it doesn't seem superimposing to me.
Wouldn't supraimposed be like one level even further higher? Yeah. More than 40 states have reported increases in opioid-related deaths since the pandemic struck, according to the American Medical Association. 855-450-3733. More Free Talk Live coming your way.
Do you have health or energy challenges? Would you like to support your health and energy from a product that people consistently feel the uplifting and health-building effects from the first day they consume it? I introduce you to Green Meadow Whey, the only whey protein powder from grass-pastured cows that is processed in a manner that ensures that the proteins and amino acids remain in their correct geometric shape that the body can use. The naturally occurring proteins, peptides, and amino acids in renatured whey are proven to support multiple aspects of human health, from complementing your immune system, to neutralizing chronic inflammation, to supporting detoxification, to stabilization of blood sugar, and more. Additionally, due to the Tesla-like frequencies encoded into Green Meadow Whey, it is a dramatic support for your energy and mood. And it is an excellent emergency preparedness food with well over a 5-year shelf life. To order, call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit greenmeadowway.com. greenmeadowway.com.
Stop aging now. Restore those joints. Boost your strength. Because it's official. NutriMedical has released the most exciting, powerful anti-aging supplement on the market. Dr. Bill Deagle's Red Deer Velvet DR has been approved by the U.S. Patent Office. Imagine stem cell rejuvenation all in one capsule without huge expense. Dr. Bill MD discovered that as an unborn baby grows in the mother's womb, he or she does not deteriorate or physically age. Red Deer Velvet DR, like the uterus, provides 300 biomolecules and 6 hormones protected in one special DR capsule that delivers lipid packages directly into your circulation. This patented technology bypasses the stomach and is released into the small bowel unaltered by digestive enzymes and stomach acid. Remember, Red Deer Velvet DR. Improve endurance, stimulate your immune system, increase learning ability, and even improve sexual libido with Red Deer Velvet DR. Click NutriMedical.com, that's N-U-T-R-I medical.com, or call toll-free 888-212-8871 and get on the road to a newer, rejuvenated, happier you.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Live video of our key New Hampshire-based shows is streamed on DLive. Please follow and share at dlive.lrn.fm. That's dlive.lrn.fm.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the live Monday night edition. I am your host this evening. I am the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me in studio, it's
Ian.
And nobody.
Our toll-free number, of course, is 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, like freedom, if you want to call in and weigh in on anything we've been talking about or bring up whatever's on your mind. You're welcome to do so. We've been talking about this article from ABC News, talking about the different statistics of things since the lockdowns, things that affect human beings negatively as a result of the government mandates. The title of this article is Predictions of More Suicides, Overdoses, and Domestic Abuse During COVID Are Coming True. We've talked a little bit about the opioid pandemic, but overdoses, both fatal and non-fatal, have also increased 20% compared with the same time period in 2019, according to the Overdose Detection Mapping Application Program. The incidence of first-time users is also on the rise, Corain added. Isolation, economic pressure, and family conflict during quarantine are all factors for this.
So they said overdoses this year are up 20%. Is that what you just said?
Overdoses, both fatal and non-fatal, have increased 20%.
Wow.
That's pretty significant.
Compared with the same time period in 2019.
Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah. It's 1 in 5, right? So,
the increase is 20%. So we don't know
20% more, right? Yeah. Reports of domestic violence are also rising. Surprise! Did anybody? I mean, did we not?
Well, duh. I mean, you're at home now with the person who you're supposed to be with on a relationship basis, but most of the time you're out working, so you don't actually have to stay with that person constantly, and now you get to know what they're really like if you didn't know before.
For the full day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And many experts are worried that the cases reported are but a small fraction of those happening, because we already know how underreported domestic violence is.
And I'm not excusing it. I'm just explaining why you're likely to see more of that. If somebody knew their partner was violent, but they're being abused, and there's sort of that abuse mentality of, I know he loves me, like that they'll make these excuses to stay with the abuser. Well, now they're actually with the abuser more often, so of course the instances of the actual abuse are going to go up.
And they can't get away from each other as easily, and she can't meet anybody else as easily.
You can't go to a bar and meet somebody. Not that that's the best way to do it, but like even the online dating sites are discouraging people actually meeting.
Yeah, that's so weird. It's so
Name
weird.
your price isn't.
Yeah. Kelly Owens, the executive director of the New York State Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence, says the calls to domestic violence hotlines dropped in the first few weeks of the pandemic, but then increased by 30% in April and increased by 76% by August. This is just in New York City.
Oh, wow.
Alone, right? So they remained elevated into September, she added. So it dropped a little bit in the first few weeks when everybody's like, okay, well, we'll just get through a couple of weeks, right? But then by April, 30% increase, and then by August, 76%.
I hadn't heard the August numbers because we initially reported on this, and we were, I think we covered it in April, but I don't think we've really seen anything since then for numbers. So
the United Nations warns that the pandemic is likely to undermine efforts to end gender-based violence globally, while stay-at-home and social distancing orders may effectively trap the abused with their abusers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, does that mean that the United Nations is going to stop propping up governments?
We can only wish.
Given that they're made by governments, I don't think so.
True.
The CDC recognized that violence is a serious public health problem. Did they? When did they recognize it? It affects all people in all stages of life, and many violence survivors suffer from long-term physical, mental, and emotional health problems. It's important to keep in mind that domestic violence is usually underreported, Owen added. Public health specialists and policymakers are taking steps to try and address these alarming trends. No, they're not.
Nah.
If they were, they would just go ahead and lift all the restrictions and let everybody move about freely and go on with their lives.
You are now free to move about the country.
Unfortunately, that is definitely not happening. Restrictions are getting worse.
He says, for example, many states have eased restrictions for telehealth.
All right.
Make it easier for you to Zoom a medical provider during a crisis. Yeah, thanks.
Wow.
Thanks. Some are making it easier to prescribe medication for opioid use disorder without an in-person visit. Now you can get your drugs.
Yeah, that's what you'll do. That's what you do. Just start taking a different drug. See, that's actually one of the great ways that the government has demonstrated their utter disregard for human life is that they say, oh, well, if you get off heroin and you take Suboxone instead, or you take methadone instead, then we won't put you in prison.
Right.
Well, the thing about it is methadone has worse withdrawal. And I've heard this uniformly
Suboxone does too,
from
right?
the addicts that I've worked with. I've never been an opiate person, but and Suboxone, the newer one, is even worse. They say it feels like your flesh is being pulled away from your bones when you're withdrawing from that. So what is the benefit? And they'll keep you on that for the rest of your life. So what's the real benefit of these programs? Well, what it does is it means that instead of the money going to some South American cartel,
right, or
they
your
go to
local
a
heroin
good old
dealer.
American drug cartel called Big Pharma.
Right. Yeah.
That's the only change it makes.
Spot on.
And you don't go to prison, which is a problem the government created in the first place.
Yeah, so they're basically hijacking the black market customers.
Yeah. Well, what
Legally.
it is Big Pharma sells drugs, and like any good, like any drug cartel, they need muscle to protect their turf.
Right.
So when they need a hitman, when they need a murderer, they call the government, and they get people murdered.
Over the summer, the CDC released guidance for people experiencing abuse and for those coping with extreme stress during the pandemic. The CDC recommends making a plan if you live in an unsafe home, practicing self-care as much as possible, and trying to maintain virtual social connections with people outside your immediate home.
The word virtual means not real.
So
none of that
not
sounds like good advice.
maintaining social connections.
Make a plan. What kind of a plan, CDC? Community-level solutions should prioritize young adults, racial and ethnic minorities, essential workers, and adult caregivers, according to the CDC, which said these efforts should include economic support, efforts to reduce stresses related to racial discrimination, promoting community social connections, and care for those at risk of suicide. The pandemic isn't going anywhere, Duckworth said. No kidding.
It's the new normal.
Yeah.
I'm working on a new abnormal. That ought to be fun.
We predicted this. I know I did. As soon as it happened, as soon as the lockdowns happened, and everybody's like, it's only going to be 2 weeks. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
It's not going to be 2 weeks.
2 weeks to flatten the curve.
It's going to be way longer. And people are like, why do you say that? It's like, well, whenever government takes control of a thing, they rarely
let it go.
They rarely give it back. And if they do give it back, they only half give it back.
Well, I mean, what's the point of being in government if you don't have the power to ruin the lives of others?
Yeah. So at any rate, it's bad. It's going to get worse.
It is getting worse. Would you like to hear about what's happening in Massachusetts?
What's happening in Massachusetts, Ian?
They announced today a new series of coronavirus restrictions for Massachusetts, including a curfew for businesses, reduction of the indoor gathering limit, and a tighter face mask mandate. So Massachusetts already had mandatory face masks in place. It's now even worse. A stay-at-home, quote, advisory will be put into place.
What is this, like a tornado watch?
Well, that's
stay-at-home advisory has been issued for the state of Massachusetts.
I mean, that is a good question of like the political wording here. What does it really mean? Is an advisory the same thing as a curfew? They say it'll be 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. beginning at 12:01 on Friday. Between those hours, residents should stay home with exceptions like going to work or the grocery store. Baker, that's the governor there, Charlie Baker, signed an executive order that requires indoor recreation facilities, so like a gym, theaters, casinos, and other entertainment venues to close at 9:30 p.m. So because we all know that the virus passes faster at nighttime. It goes further at night.
Wow.
Just kidding. That's a bunch of BS. Restaurants will be required to stop providing table service at 9:30 p.m., but still can provide takeout, and there's more to this that I will share with you.
855-450-3733 is our toll-free number if you'd like to call and weigh in on this or anything else. This is Free Talk Live. We've got more Free Talk Live, the third hour, coming up.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now's your chance to be part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for everyone to use it in everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that's as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more, and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
The final pitches. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. In the last hours before Election Day, both candidates fighting for votes in one battleground state. Pennsylvania has 20 electoral votes up for grabs. President Trump was in Scranton earlier.
A vote for Biden is a vote to give control of government over to the globalists, communists, socialists, the wealthy, liberal hypocrites who want to silence, censor, cancel, and punish you.
The president has stops in Michigan and Wisconsin tonight. Former Vice President Biden was in Pittsburgh talking about his tax plan. Now he says it will be more fair to the middle class.
Why should a firefighter, an educator, a nurse, a steel worker pay a higher tax rate, and this is the God's truth, a higher tax rate than the super wealthy? And by the way, why should you pay more taxes than Donald Trump?
Biden will be back in Pennsylvania tomorrow. Fox News Democracy 2020 coverage of Election Day tomorrow. Watch on the Fox News channel and listen on the Fox News app. Authorities in Austria say several people were killed. Multiple suspects remain on the loose after a suspected terror attack near a synagogue in Vienna.
Vienna police saying gunfire erupted in multiple locations in the heart of the city Monday night, and officers shot one suspect dead. Austria's interior minister telling a public broadcaster it appears to be a terrorist attack and the perpetrators were armed with rifles. The shootings happening hours before a month-long national lockdown to slow the spread of COVID-19 went into effect. Police urged the public to avoid open spaces and refrain from posting video on social media so as not to endanger officers. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
Bail has been set at $2 million for Kyle Rittenhouse, the Illinois teenager accused of killing two people during a protest in Kenosha, Wisconsin in August. The father of one of the men who was killed has asked for $4 million bail. America is listening to Fox News.
This year has challenged businesses across the globe to be their most efficient, which means every hire is critical. Indeed is here to help. Indeed.com is the #1 job site in the world because Indeed gets you the best people fast. Unlike other sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility over your hiring. You only pay for what you need. You can pause your account at any time, and there are no long-term contracts. Plus, Indeed provides powerful tools to make your search that much easier, like sponsored jobs, which are shown to be 3.5 times more likely to result in a hire. With 73% of online job seekers visiting Indeed each month, Indeed is going to get you the important hire you need, just like they have for over 3 million businesses. Right now, Indeed is offering our listeners a free $75 credit to boost your job post, which means more quality candidates will see it fast. Try Indeed out with a free $75 credit at Indeed.com/Fox. This is their best offer available anywhere. Go right now to Indeed.com/Fox. Terms and conditions apply. Offer valid through December 31st.
Federal law enforcement says they've recovered more than 24 missing children in yet another operation.
The U.S. Marshals say raids in Virginia helped them locate another 27 children who had been reported missing. It's part of ongoing efforts in a number of states by law enforcement at all levels to locate children. Between Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, and others, more than 440 children have been taken out of harm's way this year. These efforts are collaborations between federal, state, and local law enforcement and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Eben Brown, Fox News.
The Trump administration has approved Georgia's plan to overhaul how state residents buy health insurance under the Affordable Care Act. Federal officials signed off on Governor Brian Kemp's proposal to offer federally subsidized health insurance through private brokers instead of the ACA. A major company suspends cruises until sometime next year.
Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings is suspending its sailings through the end of the year. The action includes Norwegian.
The American robin heralds the beginning of spring in temperate climates across North America. Its red breast makes it easily identifiable as the most disturbingly efficient murderer in the animal kingdom. Here, we see a robin rip a worm out of the ground with no moral hesitation whatsoever. This atrocity is but one in a series of cold-blooded murders this bird will commit in a single day. Although feces-fueled worms are themselves one of the most disgusting of all animals, the robin's cruelty remains indefensible. Some apologists might argue that robins need to eat worms to survive, but worms are capable of regeneration. So robins could satiate themselves on fractions of individual worms and leave the rest. But it does not. Unequivocal evidence of the robin's bloodlust.
This is the Onion News Network.
The total loser's corpse contained no traces of drugs or alcohol, and a superstitious Delta Airlines adds busty mermaids to its plane noses. My friend, you look like you are in need of the world's finest internet news summaries. Please come in and warm yourself by the fire of knowledge. This is the Onion Week in Review. A new law passed in Colorado this week will allow residents with a doctor's prescription to purchase medicinal fireworks, saying that those in need of stargazers, firecrackers, and Galleria highlights now need only obtain a doctor's prescription, state officials expressed hope that the law would ease the suffering of those in need of huge, dazzling explosions. And in this week's op-ed pages, a man notes that, like it or not, we all die, then get dug up and molested. In other news, white male privilege is squandered on a job at Best Buy, and a local TCBY has missed the past 2 logo changes. Well, that's it for now. Goodbyes are bittersweet, my love, so I'll only tell you, for more, keep checking theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for listening. We're going into the third hour of tonight's edition of Free Talk Live. Our toll-free number is 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, like freedom. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
And Ian.
And nobody.
And you were telling us about some horrible developments in Massachusetts.
Well, I mean, it's not just Massachusetts where we're seeing some restrictions being re-increased, tightened up.
Yep.
It's happening in France, in the UK, in other countries. There's other states, New York State also, telling people that they have to quarantine if they come in from another state, or they have to be at the very least tested for COVID-19 within 3 days of arrival. But in Massachusetts, just to give you an example of some of the restrictions they're putting into place, it is Governor Charlie Baker who says, "Our message here is very simple." This, by the way, according to CBS in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
"We can't afford to continue what we're doing. We want to do everything in our power to avoid reverting back to phase 1 or phase 2 of our reopening plan, but that requires us all to step up and make some changes." Unquote. The limit for indoor gatherings now at private homes has been reduced to just 10 people. The outdoor gathering limit is now set at 25. Indoor and outdoor events at homes or event venues must end by 9:30 p.m. Also, they're closing restaurants and all entertainment venues, facilities,
They
theaters.
really do think this stuff spreads at night, don't they?
Outside of, there's no like tanks and, military-clad dudes with guns running through the streets. What about this isn't martial law?
Well, martial law is law enforced by the military, so the fact that it's not law enforced by the military means that it's not martial law. Martial means
It's just a police state.
Okay.
Massachusetts is also updating its face covering order to require everyone above the age of 5 years old to wear a face covering in public, even if social distancing can be maintained. So the old rule was that you could go for a walk without using a mask as long as you were walking at least 6 feet away from everybody else. Now they're just saying, nope. Now you got to wear a mask no matter where you are, outdoors, indoors, public, private. Maybe you could take the mask off in your home.
Well, my days of staying out of Massachusetts are definitely coming to a middle.
We can talk more about that in just a bit, but first let's go to Joe in Grand Rapids. Joe, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hello?
Joe?
Yeah.
Hey, there you are.
My governor in Michigan just in a roundabout way, even though she was slapped down a couple weeks ago, added some new restrictions.
Oh, really? What's going on with
the state health department?
What's going on with Gretchen?
Well, now if you're going to go into a restaurant, you have to show ID, give your name.
You have to show ID?
Number. Yeah, they're wanting ID, name, phone number, address, all this crap. I'm not sure how this is not a violation of the Fourth Amendment, but
it's because it's the restaurants who are violating your right to privacy. See, so the government isn't doing it.
They're violating the restaurant's right not to violate yours.
Yeah, they're blackmailing the restaurants. They're gonna, we'll pull your business licenses, this kind of stuff, and it's.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And not a single one of them, almost none of them, will have the balls to actually refuse it. Almost none of them.
Well, it's like I feel sorry for the businesses. I work out at home, my gym. They have to wear. I'm not wearing a mask when I'm trying to work out, dude.
Hell no.
Sorry. Cancel my membership, and I'll just do it at home. I'll walk around the block, whatever. But I'm not doing it. And people are not gonna, here's my license, take all my personal info down just so I can eat a meal.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
And, right. We're one step away. I mean, seriously, it seems like we're one step away from, 1930s, Germany, where you got to walk around papers. Well, and it'll probably get that way.
You've had to walk around with papers. They're called, driver's licenses or whatever.
State ID
in some
all
states.
that. Yeah.
But yeah, now it's worse than it's ever been, and I definitely share your concerns. And in these restaurants, now it's just more work. It's more busy work for these people. Like if it were actually busy, right, and it's not because the numbers are down. But the more work these people have to do, now they got to collect names. Now they got to collect phone numbers. Now with every customer that walks through the door, they have more hoops to jump through. Here in New Hampshire, they're telling business owners that run convenience stores that they're not even allowed to let their customers take their own coffee cups anymore. So now the clerk has to do more work because if you want a cup of coffee, you then have to wait in line to get to the clerk and then ask for a cup. Then you can go and pour your own cup of coffee. So it takes extra time.
But the real question is, are you ready to fight back yet? I mean, I've been waiting for somebody to start the boogaloo because it's about bleeding time, we don't have that many rights left. The next thing, if they're going to take any more rights, all they can do is come and take our guns. They've already got the rest of our rights. They've already got my gun rights.
They're taking our speech away from us. I posted a video this morning on the Facebook. From a journalist I follow on YouTube. She's not extreme. She's English. She used to work for the BBC. She was interviewing a doctor, and he had some minor disagreements with what's going on in the UK with their government. Immediately after I hit share, it got flagged by their fact checkers or whatever.
The thought police, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If you got an opinion, they're going to have what it is. The government has. This is a story. Big business is going to get in line with them, and anybody that doesn't fall in line, they're going to shut you down.
Yep. It's over.
Yeah.
And so, would you support secession if your state was talking about seceding?
100%, man. I was just talking to my buddy about this the other day. The free states would have to build a wall to keep because the commie states they'd start cannibalizing each other within a few months. But I don't know if Michigan, we're one of them swing states where you never know which way it's going to blow. But I would definitely move somewhere, if it came to that point where,
it may come to that point.
Have you considered New Hampshire? Because there is a secession movement afoot here. That's one of the reasons I'm here.
It needs work. We need help.
Well, yeah, we do need help.
We need numbers.
There aren't enough libertarians in America to make all of America free by any stretch of the imagination. But there are enough libertarians in America to make New Hampshire free. There's only 1.5 million people here. That makes 1 million voters.
Not even
1 million voters. Certainly not 1 million votes cast. I think there might be 1 million potential voters.
What do you say, Joe?
I think too many Americans are caught up in this tribalism. I'm going to vote for my guy, even though he's his policies are garbage, and it actually hurts me. If your economy's in the toilet, man, you can't do all the little fancy programs these politicians promise. You got to get the economy right, and everything else will fall in line. And right now, it seems like they're trying to crush us. They're trying to crush the economies.
It certainly does. You've hit the nail on the head, Joe.
I think they literally are, and I think there's a number of reasons for it, but they have more power when people are poor, is the long and short of it. When people have money, they don't feel like they need the government.
Hey, we appreciate the call, Joe. Thanks a lot.
By the way, New Hampshire vote totals in 2016, the presidential election, you're looking at a roughly 700,000 votes cast.
Interesting.
So about half the population.
I would like to just point out this other article via the New York Times. It says, how are Americans catching the virus? Increasingly, quote, they have no idea. So they don't even know if it's actually airborne or not. So this whole
And how would you know where you caught it from anyway, or in what circumstance?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Oh, he caught it at this restaurant. Yeah, you don't know where he caught it. Maybe it was knocking boots with a drug addicted hooker in the alley and not telling you about it.
Again. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. If you'd like to weigh in, we've got more Free Talk Live coming up.
Moose is the German Shepherd and hasn't had any kind of health problems at all. He has been on Dinovite since he's a puppy. DINOVITE.com. We tell anybody that has a dog, if there was something that you could do right from the beginning so that you don't have expensive veterinary bills, why would you not do it? Get the Dinovite.
Dinovite for life.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. DIVI project.org.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions, or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com. Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive, and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by T.J. Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love, and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way,
love as your guide,
and liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air, and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live, your favorite call-in talk radio program where you can dial in and take control of the airwaves, talk about anything you'd like to. Our toll-free number is 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, like freedom. And in the studio tonight, it is myself, the captain.
It's Ian.
And nobody.
And everyone has their own idea of what freedom is. For some, freedom is the freedom to swing free like the Scotsmen do. Richie Rich and Mark got some great kilts from sportkilt.com. You can even see our hosts wearing sports kilts' particular form of freedom at kilts.freetalklive.com. That's kilts with an S, freetalklive.com. You haven't felt freedom until you've worn a kilt from sportkilt.com. Set those puppies free. It's a good philosophy.
Do you think up kilt pictures are a thing?
Oh, I wonder if there's like perverted ladies going around with like cameras on their feet.
Shoes.
Yeah, like trying to get up kilt photos. I wonder, are we on air in Scotland? I mean, I know we're on the internet, but like, do we have any Scottish callers?
Actually, we used to have a cabbie call in with a heavy Scottish accent. I don't know if he was in Scotland per se, but he was over in the UK somewhere.
Yeah. Interesting. It would be interesting to find out. So we were talking about the measures in sort of the Massachusetts area.
Yeah, things are getting worse there. They're restricting indoor gatherings down to 10 people, outdoor gathering limit at 25. All restaurants, casinos, entertainment venues, facilities, theaters all have to close by 9:30 p.m. And the governor had this to say. Oh, and the face covering requirement that they already had is now becoming more stringent. Where
how can you do more than require a face mask?
Well, there was an exemption previously if so-called social distancing could be maintained, meaning that if you're in a park, and you're more than 6 feet away from other people, they say you could take the mask off. Now, no more of that in Massachusetts. Now you have to have a mask on at all times, anytime you are in so-called public. So in a business that's open to the public, on a public sidewalk, in a public park, basically anywhere they're saying.
If you're camping?
Anywhere they're saying out in public, you will need to have a mask on in Massachusetts. Now, here's what the governor had to say.
I'm sorry,
about it.
I believe it's now pronounced Massachusetts.
It was and is. The governor, Baker, said this. Now, see if you can make heads or tails of this legal-sounding statement.
Okay.
Quote, "The mask requirement remains what I would describe as guidance."
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
No, if it's a requirement, it's not guidance.
But the difference here is we're eliminating the 6-foot spread. We're basically saying if you go out in public, wear a mask, said Baker. And that's how I felt about it. The word requirement, I generally don't associate with the word guidance.
Right.
However, in all of the government, these orders that are being issued by governors, they almost always talk about guidance. They're always couching these so-called requirements in the terms of this is the guidance on COVID. Here's the guidance on how you open a restaurant.
When I was in grade school, I didn't go see the requirements counselor.
Right.
I saw the guidance counselor.
Yeah. Well, right. And another good example of guidance is like, if you're climbing up a mountain or, some sort of rocky trail, there may be like a line that you could hold on to, right? If you need a guiding line to get you to where you're going to. Or you could try to do it without the line and, see how you do. It's up to you whether you need that guidance or not. But in the legal, spectrum that we've seen so far this year, the term is used interchangeably with orders and requirements, and I think it's all very confusing, and I think it's purposely confusing, and I think most people, they just go ahead and presume that these are requirements because that's the way they're talked about for the most
if you're
part.
lost in the woods and you need guidance, you usually turn to your compass or some other form of direction, because humans will actually travel in a circle. By nature of humans, like if you're lost in the forest or whatever and you don't know which way to go because you've never been there before and you can't find the trail or whatever,
right?
So you need some sort of guidance. That's a whole different terminology than the word requirement.
It is.
Whole different meaning. They're not even in the same ballpark.
Has anyone actually challenged this, though? Has anyone gone out there
I'm sure not.
and gotten a ticket for not wearing a mask?
No,
and then gone
when
to
your
court?
masters from up on high speak to you, you obey.
That's the problem.
Well, they're not
here.
giving any tickets. I mean, I've never put on I've put on a mask.
Well, they're not
I
giving
think
them
3
here.
times to go to the bank.
They're not giving them here. They're definitely giving tickets in other places. A guy named Catman, who we both know, received a ticket out in California.
Really? I hope he fights that, because I'm pretty
he did. He tried to fight
it's
it,
unenforceable.
And here's what happened. According to Catman, he called me when he tried to fight it, nobody. And here's what they told him. They called him the day before the trial was scheduled and said, "We're canceling your trial. We found you guilty of what you did, and you owe twice the fine."
Wow.
That's what he claimed happened. Now, I don't have proof that that's what happened, but that's what he told me.
Wow.
I do have to ask.
That's not going to work out for them well in court, because that's not how any of this works.
Off
Yeah,
topic.
but how's he going to go to court? He needs to hire an attorney now if he wants to force them back into court.
Off topic, just because of the dude's name, I have to wonder if Catman has ever been to Kathmandu.
Spelled differently.
Either way. It'd be even funnier if he was from
Catman do
Kathmandu.
what Catman do.
They've been giving out tickets.
That's just how we do.
In Miami as well, there's a special squad of cops that are designated to go around and give people social distancing tickets and mask tickets. So, yes, they are definitely writing tickets in some jurisdictions, but here in New Hampshire...
The COVID cops?
Yes. Here in New Hampshire, there has been one ticketing, but not for masks that we know of, and that was a karaoke lounge that was ticketed, or a bar that has karaoke, was ticketed for a $2,000 fine for breaking the so-called guidance on how to run a restaurant.
Wow.
It's UGLY.
Here's one more quote for you from the Baker guy from Massachusetts. Quote, Baker says, however, despite all these restrictions that they're talking about, every business has to close 9:30, all these other restrictions, he says it's critical not to shut down the economy or schools. Quote, what we should not do to deal with these trends is shut down our economy or close our schools to deal with this. Schools are not spreaders here or anywhere else.
What did Orwell call that? Doublespeak?
Yeah. It's been proven now over and over and over again by real-life experience and longitudinal studies. So what he's saying, on one hand, is that business is too dangerous. We can't have people doing business, but you can send your kids to the government school. Everything's fine there. We're totally
you can't
not...
shut down the economy, just shut down the businesses, which makes me wonder if he knows what the economy is made out of.
Yeah.
What the word even means. It wouldn't surprise me if politicians had no idea what half of the definitions of the words they use are. We know just from watching things like presidential speeches that they've gone from off the cuff to highly produced. And this is one of my beefs about politicians in general, is that when they do give speeches, particularly presidents and things of that nature, look for the teleprompter. Because it's right there, right? Somebody has written the speech for him. It's not him giving the speech. It's all right there on the teleprompter. He's been put into makeup and wardrobe, and he's appearing on stage for that very reason, as if he were a television production.
Yep.
855-450-3733. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
News from news.bitcoin.com. Bitcoin tops 13,000 and breaks its own record for consecutive days above 10,000. Satoshi Nakamoto, if alive, enters the top 200 world's wealthiest people. DC International Monetary Fund Manager warns of major financial reset imminent. PayPal begins selling and accepting Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes mainstream. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies, getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com.
Do you want more businesses accepting Bitcoin Cash and Dash? Now with AnyPay, you earn passive income for every purchase at those businesses. Finally, a financial incentive to spread Bitcoin Cash and Dash. You made it happen, so you get the rewards. Download the AnyPay Cash Register app and add your cryptocurrency wallet addresses. Then install it at a real-life business and tell us what you did at AnyPayInc.com. AnyPayInc.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people
who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
Like the man said, yeah. Ha-ha. That's right. It is Free Talk Live.
You've heard this before.
I never. I may have even played this live at Forkfest this past year. It's possible. We don't know. There's very few records of said event, so, the world may never know. 855-450-3733 is our toll-free number. That's 855-450-FREE, like freedom. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass.
And you've got Ian.
And nobody.
And speaking of Forkfest, you can join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for Forkfest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Forkfest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and Forkfest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for Forkfest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow Forkfesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the Forkfest forum. Links to those can be found on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021, and we'll see you at forkfest.party. So we were talking about Massachusetts, or Massachusetts, I guess they should be called now. And so there's some other news coming out of New York?
I mean, there's plenty of news coming out of a lot of places. Also, in other news from Massachusetts, there have been something like 36 towns that have gone all the way back to what they call level 1 or tier 1.
Phase 1 or whatever.
The initial crackdown where so-called non-essential businesses have to close and all that.
It puts the mask on its skin or else it gets phase 1 again.
It's coming right back. New York Post reporting about New York, the state. So this is not New York City, but the state of New York. According to the governor there, most people who visit New York will have to quarantine for 3 days and then prove they are negative for COVID-19 before they are, quote, free to go about their business.
Wait, just visiting?
Just visiting New York. The strict new mandate, which exempts New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania residents, so the 3 states that connect directly to New York are the only ones that are exempt. And it eliminates the governor's quarantine advisory list, which restricted travel from over 40 coronavirus hotspots across the country. Now they're just restricting it from everywhere except for New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. Now travelers must show proof of a negative test taken within 3 days of arriving in the Empire State and must also quarantine for 3 more days and get a new COVID-19 test on the 4th. So...
Fat chance, buddy.
Well, they're going to try to find you if you, let's say, are going. I'm just going to guess here, right? Because they need to. They're not going to be stopping people.
They're not going to find me in New York.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to New York, then they're going to try to find you.
Right.
So they're not yet going to be setting up checkpoints, I don't think, at the state roads or whatever that are coming into the state. But that's probably coming. I mean, that's not happening now. But there's no reason why that won't be happening in a month from now.
If you got license plates from anywhere outside those 3 exempted states,
that could be something.
What's going to happen?
That could give them probable cause in their mind to stop you. But also, I guarantee you, if you're checking in at a hotel, that's going to be the crux of where they are going to focus their efforts to crack down on.
What about
this.
truckers? Truckers come from out of state, from all over the freaking
Well, now
place.
that's a good question. Is it considered visiting New York if you're just passing through?
Yeah, right.
I'm leaving. I came in and I'm instantly leaving. I'm not visiting. I want to go.
Don't get out of the truck.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it
don't buy your
reminds
gas.
me of some great words by Frederick Douglass, escaped slave, orator. He said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact nature of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue until they are resisted either with words or with blows or with both." Frederick Douglass.
It's a great quote. So if you test positive for COVID-19, you must isolate for 2 weeks, according to the governor at his press briefing. Quote, 4 days plus 3 days is 7 days, and that's basically by all probability the incubation period, said Cuomo as he announced 2,049 new cases across the state and 8 deaths reported yesterday. Quote, there will be no metrics. There will be one rule that applies across the country. Anyone who refuses to be tested must quarantine for 14 days.
Wait. Repeat that again. Across the country?
Everyone except for New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania residents.
Okay,
This
all
week
right.
they
Well,
will be
not
subject.
across the country. He intends to apply it in New York
to anybody
people from across the
country, right?
New Yorkers who return home within a day of leaving must take a test within 4 days of their arrival. So if you go away for less than a day, so you go to, I don't know, somewhere else besides New Jersey, I guess, and you come back, then you have to take a test within 4 days. If you're gone for longer than 24 hours, then the new rules apply, which means you have to take a test within 3 days.
What happens at the airport?
I suspect they're going to get your information.
I mean, New York City has a very large airport, does it not?
I think they have more than one.
So LaGuardia and Kennedy.
Yeah.
Okay, so people fly all over the place for all sorts of things, including international travel. That's got to be a hot spot for connecting flights.
I suspect connecting flights will probably be left alone. I think their intention is only if you intend to stay within the bounds of New York
so
State.
then your connecting flight, you missed your connecting flight, or the flight is otherwise canceled for weather or something like that.
Things
and
will
now
get a little sticky.
And now you have to stay in New York for a couple of days.
Yeah. Again, you've got 3 days to take the test. So if you refuse to test, they're going to quarantine you for 14 days. Presumably that may be against your will. It's not real clear.
Right, but what if you're
means.
connecting flight leaves in 2 days?
You probably are okay. But that's not legal advice. That's just me speculating based on what I've read here.
It's going to get ugly.
This is bad. This is very bad.
And we know that monkey see, monkey do applies in the United States of America, at least traditionally. When
monkeys are that way everywhere.
I mean, politicians. Politicians see, politician do.
But I repeat myself.
And I do too, to some extent.
Imagine that I'm an idiot. And imagine that I'm a member of Congress. But I repeat myself.
Imagine half the people you know and realize that half of them are below average.
Yep.
So, how'd you like to hear about Thanksgiving?
Which year?
This year. There's restrictions.
You can see into the future?
California has a plan for you.
I've heard something about this.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I've heard that the restrictions for Thanksgiving are more restrictive than the restrictions for having a funeral. And so people have said this. I'm not having Thanksgiving. I'm just having a funeral for the turkey. Everybody come on and pay your respects.
It's your funeral.
But yes, let's hear about the draconian Thanksgiving being imposed upon Californians this year.
Yeah, in case you think this is a joke, it's from Newsweek.com. This is not The Onion. This is not Babylon Bee. But here's what the governor there, California Governor Gavin Newsom said, quote, gatherings are defined as social situations that bring together people from different households at the same time in a single space or place. When people from different households mix, this increases the risk of transmission of COVID-19, according to the California Department of Public Health. Therefore, all gatherings must include no more than 3 households, including hosts and guests, and must be held outdoors, lasting for 2 hours or less.
I really wish I knew what these idiots were really trying to accomplish by this.
The longer the duration of the gathering, the risk of transmission increases, said the statement. Gatherings that occur outdoors are significantly safer than indoor gatherings. All gatherings must be held outside. Attendees may go inside to use restrooms as long as the restrooms are frequently sanitized.
They're not going to make me pee on the lawn. How nice.
Well, they also want to make sure you go in and frequently sanitize. So there needs to be somebody working the Thanksgiving restroom attendant job.
I'm going to call this something. I'm going to call it the no Thanksgiving.
Sorry, more coming up. They are a little bit late there with the music. Not sure what's going on at our
choices to get fast relief without taking another pill. Because now, Sunny Bay heating wraps and pillows are available at both Amazon and Walmart. Yes, see Sunny Bay's 4.5 to 5-star customer reviews on Amazon.com or Walmart.com. Our made in the USA microwavable heat wraps, heatable neck pillows, and extra large body wraps are designed better for perfect support where and when you need it. Even while driving, Sunny Bay wraps will not burn and stay balanced to provide soothing hot or cold therapy to help treat temporary or chronic pain. And the best part? Sunny Bay quality products start at under $20. Join thousands of happy customers and see why Sunny Bay products have a lifetime 100% positive rating on both Amazon and Etsy. It's easy. Click Amazon or Walmart and search today for Sunny Bay.
Attention business owners body slammed by overwhelming debt. If your business is in trouble, hassled by creditors, if you're frustrated, finally fed up with big business bailouts while your business has been left for dead, please listen close. There's a brand new fast-track bankruptcy. Some have even called it the biggest small business bailout in American history. Designed for individuals and their businesses. And look, almost no one knows about this yet. My attorney wasn't even aware of it. The truth is, beating the system has never been easy because it's rigged in a sense against the little guy. But here's the jaw-dropping news nobody's talking about. They've literally just changed the system so that you can beat it, but only if you understand how the new game has to be played. Find out if you qualify at pocketsoflight.com. This government-backed small business repair program is still legal, but may not be renewed after the election. Fight back fairly, fight back ethically at pocketsoflight.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
Rolling into the final segment of tonight's program. Our toll-free number is 855-450-3733. We might have enough time to get you on if you would like to call. This is Free Talk Live. I am your host tonight. It's the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me, it's
Ian.
And nobody.
We're talking about what I'm calling no Thanksgiving because no thanks. I don't want any part of your
thankless giving.
Yeah, your restrictions over my celebration. Now, I mean, I'm not a Thanksgiving kind of guy. I mean, I like eating, obviously, but like, Thanksgiving is a holiday. Whatever, it's fine. If you want to celebrate,
it's one of the better holidays, honestly.
It really is, because there's like not a lot of folks like either trying to shove politics or religion down your throat. It's just
about eating, and
getting together,
thanking people for things.
Yeah. So with that regard, it's fine. But apparently, no more.
Yeah, no thanks to the government gang here. California has come out with their recommendations, guidelines, mandates, whatever
California
rules that they're saying here. So this is from the California Department of Public Health. They're calling them safety guidelines for all private gatherings, that also are being referred to as strict restrictions here. So presumably it will be a misdemeanor crime if you are caught violating these restrictions.
Okay, hold that thought for just a minute, because I have to say thank you to Liberty is Life. They are our amplifier today. They are a silver level amplifier. If you would like to be an amplifier of this program, that stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote, you can go over to amp.freetalklive.com and sign up over there. We only ask for $5 a month. You can give more, obviously. There's some little perks for that if you sign up. And what the money goes to is getting us on more radio stations. We're currently on around 190 stations nationwide. We could be on more. We could be on 200, 250, even 300. It's all up to you. Go visit amp.freetalklive.com. Thank you to Liberty is Life. We appreciate your contribution.
So in addition to saying that all these Thanksgiving gatherings must include no more than 3 households and must be held outdoors, lasting for 2 hours or less, so telling you how long you can hang out with the limited number of friends they might allow you to see, you might think for a moment that, okay, well, at least we can hang out with these 3 households.
Okay.
Well, there's a few restrictions on how you can hang out with them, according to this.
What?
So in addition to being forced to be held outside, You are allowed only to go inside to use the restroom as long as it's frequently sanitized.
Wait. So there are parts of Northern California. This is statewide?
Statewide.
There are parts of Northern California. It's going to be cold.
Yeah.
You got to have a cold-ass Thanksgiving
right,
outdoors.
Make sure you rent one of those party tents, too, so you can make sure that if it gets rained on, that your Thanksgiving won't get rained on. So, like, if it's not a nice day for the weather.
Yeah, because Northern Cal has the same type of weather as the Pacific Northwest, right? Yeah. Thereabouts, at least in parts of it.
You can get one of those party tents for, like, what, $1,500? That's what everybody wants to spend on Thanksgiving. The new rules state that those at a gathering, quote, may remove their face coverings briefly to eat or drink as long as they stay at least 6 feet away from everyone outside their own household, and put their face covering back on as soon as they are done with the activity. Now, we know that they were also telling people in California that they had to, while eating just generally at a restaurant, they had to like lift the face covering while they're chewing
Take a bite
food.
and then put it back on.
Yeah. The latest guidelines
kind of reminds me of The Handmaid's Tale. You have to keep your face covered.
The guidelines add, quote, face coverings can also be removed to meet urgent medical needs. For example, to use an asthma inhaler, take medication, or if feeling lightheaded, because you haven't had enough oxygen.
For example.
The existing face covering rules set out by the CDPH, that's the health department there, also apply, which state everyone must wear face coverings in, quote, high-risk situations, including in outdoor public spaces, when maintaining a 6-foot distance from those outside of your household is not feasible. Singing, chanting, and shouting are, quote, strongly discouraged because they, quote, pose a very high risk of COVID-19 transmission. Singing, chanting, shouting, and physical exertion significantly increases the risk of COVID-19 transmission because these activities increase the release of respiratory droplets and fine aerosols into the air. So they're discouraging that
Not
strongly.
to mention the food particles you're going to leave in your mask after you lift it up, take a bite, lift it down, lift it up, take a bite, lift it down, whatever it is you're doing.
Those who participate in these activities should, quote, do so quietly, at or below the volume of a normal speaking voice, and wear a face cover.
They're regulating decibel levels of your Thanksgiving party?
And wear a face covering while engaged in the activity, the statement said. Those who sing, chant, or shout are also strongly encouraged to keep a physical distance of more than 6 feet to further reduce the risk of spreading infection.
Okay, look, I know this from being a musician. I know that if you're being too loud and your neighbors call the cops, that depending on the jurisdiction, they will send somebody with a dB meter. That's a decibel meter. For those of you who don't know, that measures how loud you actually are. And there's certain places where the laws are like, well, it has to drop this many dB within this many feet of your structure, et cetera, and so on. So are they going to measure this with a dB meter? Are they going to go around policing people's Thanksgiving with a decibel meter? Oh, you're too loud. And if they are, what are they going to do?
And, well, they are saying it's, quote, strongly discouraged. So what does that mean? I don't know if that means the cops come and start busting your heads to strongly discourage people, or if they'll just release the dogs. But you mentioned musicians, Captain. That's actually the next paragraph. Musicians are allowed at gatherings. However, they must be from one of the 3 households. So if you wanted to actually hire someone who can play.
So unless you're the Partridge Family.
Right. The playing of any wind instruments, those that are played by mouth, such as trumpet or clarinet, is, quote, strongly discouraged, unquote, according to the statement. The space for the gathering must be large enough to allow guests to maintain a physical distance of it. Remember, this is outdoors. They say you must maintain a physical distance of at least 6 feet from those who are not in their household at all times. Quote, seating must provide at least 6 feet of distance in all directions, front to back and side to side. So an entire 6-foot radius around you.
I mean, like, what about apartment dwellers? Right?
You have to eat outside.
So if you live in an apartment
I would rather
or a
die
condo,
than
you
go through,
just can't
go
have
through
Thanksgiving?
My life like that.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
If you live in an apartment or a condo, you can't have Thanksgiving?
You can have it outside.
What if you don't have a yard?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Of any kind, right? No. High-rise apartment buildings, these exist in California.
You can go to the park with everyone else and make sure you bring a nice tent. Protect yourself.
Also, if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like if you are going to have a Thanksgiving outdoors and follow all of these restrictions...
You're an idiot.
Well, of course. But, you live in California, so you repeat yourself. But it sounds to me like it says limit of 3 households. It
That's
sounds
right.
to me like the 3 households have to be separated from each other
Correct.
at the party.
That's exactly what they're saying. So if you and I are from the same household,
Yeah.
Captain, we can sit within a 6-foot radius of one another. But if nobody's from a different household, he has to be at least 6 feet away and wear a mask. Okay, a little more.
Wow.
As much as possible, all food and drink should be served in disposable containers, according to this. And I just lost my place. But, normally in Thanksgiving, part of the fun is to wash the dishes afterwards, right?
Like a lot of people have their fine china or their good
they wanna
dishes
bring
that
it
they
out.
use on the holidays, right? Yeah.
But then, after the fact, the men go in and they wash the dishes, right? And the ladies made the food, and none of that's allowed anymore.
The ladies sit around, watch football, and scratch themselves.
You can't get into the same kitchen, I'm sure, with anybody else, right? Because they're certainly, if they're not going to allow the different families to sit together, they're certainly not going to allow the different ladies to cook together, right? Because that's what the ladies like to do. They like to get in and they share their tricks and their recipes and things like that. So all food and drink should be served in disposable containers, while self-serve communal containers and other shared items should not be used at the gathering. So, you normally go, and I can't believe we're even talking about this, but this is actually what they're saying. You would normally go and scoop your own sweet potatoes onto your plate.
Right, yeah.
That would be a, quote, self-serve communal container, not allowed.
Well, what about those little mini kegs of beer that you get at the grocery store?
That's a self-serve communal container. You have to bring your own keg for your own household.
But that's still a self-serve communal container.
That's true. A place for washing hands or hand sanitizer must be available for use at the gathering, and all attendees should wash their hands or use hand sanitizer frequently. Just constantly washing their hands. Sanitizing.
I guess you could overpressurize the keg and just spray everybody down with beer.
Well, you could.
This thing kills a fraction of a percent of the people who get it.
That's your insane California Thanksgiving.
I wasn't that scared when AIDS was new.
I am
And I was getting a lot of tail then.
My flabber is officially gasted. I'm dumbfounded. I don't know what to say about this no Thanksgiving.
Don't you want to be safe?
If you're in California, please, if you're of the Freedom Mind, GTFO, consider coming to New Hampshire. That's all we have for tonight, guys.
It's stupid here, too, but not that bad.
Yeah, the stupid isn't nearly that thick.
This has been Free Talk Live. Good night.
Did you know you can support freedom of speech just by visiting shop.freetalklive.com? You'll see links to Walmart, Love Java, Newegg, and more. Every day, Free Talk Live is at the forefront of the liberty movement as the biggest liberty-oriented talk show in the world, giving you a platform to be heard on any topic. Get listener-only specials without doing anything other than an extra click. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. Use the links and buy what you'd be buying anyway.